He didn't believe her. None of them did. Because when Kira Brennan looked that Marine dead in the eye and said two words, last chance, they laughed. Didn't know what she was. Didn't know what she'd done. Didn't know that the quiet woman they surrounded at 0200 hours was a Navy SEAL ghost operator 3 years dead. They jumped her anyway. 10 seconds later, not one of them was standing. So before we show you what happens when you ignore a SEAL's warning drop, a comment telling us where in the world you're watching from, smash the like button, hit subscribe, and don't forget to turn on the bell icon. Because the next time you hear someone say, last chance, you'd better hope it's not her saying it. The gravel lot behind the Joint Tactical Integration Facility was quiet that morning, except for the steady clang of ruck weights being dropped and the occasional bark of a cadre correcting form. It wasn't a base exactly. Not Army, not Marine Corps, not federal law enforcement, but a shared regional complex deep in the California desert where branches and agencies sent personnel for blended combat readiness drills. That meant the usual chain of command didn't apply. And in places without clear rank structure, ego took over fast. She stepped out of the admin trailer without ceremony. No weapon, no clipboard, no nameplate. Just black boots, tan cargo pants, and a plain gray shirt that hung loose enough to hide the lean muscle underneath. Compact, maybe 5'5", with the kind of body that didn't draw attention until it moved. And then it was all anyone could see. Most people missed the tattoo on her inner wrist. Small one, no color, just a quiet mark shaped like something between a serpent and a dagger. She wore mirrored aviator glasses that covered half her face, and her dark hair was pulled back tight enough to pass any uniform inspection. She said nothing as she crossed the training pad and knelt next to a half-disassembled grappling dummy, adjusting the chest straps while others watched from a short distance away. "Hey!" Someone called out loud enough for the group, but directed squarely at her. "You here to drop off the coffee you got lost, sweetheart?" The voice belonged to Cole Havens, contractor mid-30s, ex-infantry now collecting checks, training tactical response teams for private firms overseas. He was broad, loud, tan, deep from time in hot zones, and didn't like being ignored. Next to him, two other trainees chuckled. Lopez and Garrett, young and cocky, both high on pre-workout and ego. One of them muttered, "Yoga warm-up must be in the wrong building." The woman didn't flinch. She stood slowly, checked the dummy's spine alignment, then turned to face them. Her posture was loose but aligned like someone measuring imminent threat. "You're going to need to speak up," Havens grinned. "We don't do sign language here." She tilted her head slightly, then finally spoke. Her voice was calm, level, not defensive. "I'm not here to fight anyone," she said. "Walk away now." The air shifted. A few nearby trainees stopped moving. Lopez blinked. Garrett smirked. Havens cracked his knuckles like a man who thought he was stretching before a set knot standing on a ledge. "Yeah, that a threat or a nervous breakdown?" Havens said, stepping forward half a step. Enough to test the boundary. The woman didn't repeat herself. She didn't smile. She just looked at him like he'd already made his decision. Behind her, one of the instructors had walked out of the admin office and paused, watching, not interfering, not yet. And Havens? He laughed, loud, confident, dismissive. So did Lopez. Garrett elbowed the guy next to him like it was open mic night. She didn't react. She just turned back to the dummy and finished the straps like the warning had never been issued. But they all heard it. And hours later, when the medics were hauling bodies and someone was screaming about a shattered elbow, that single line would echo like prophecy. "I'm not here to fight anyone. Walk away now." They didn't. The observation deck was loud. Boots stomping, instructors barking, laughter bouncing off the metal railings like rounds in a shooting gallery. But inside the combat arena itself, it was quiet. Kira Brennan stood exactly where she'd been placed. Right side of the sand-swept training pit, 2 meters from the blue tarp that marked her team's gear zone. She hadn't touched her helmet, hadn't even glanced at the padded batons laid out like relics on the table behind her. She just stood there, hands at her sides, eyes steady behind those mirrored glasses like someone waiting for a storm to pass. Across from her, 3 Marines had already started circling. Chests out, chins high, one of them slapping the handle of his training baton against his palm like he was itching for a reason to swing it. The staff instructor hadn't even blown the whistle yet, but that didn't seem to matter. "They said this one's a reserve fill," one Marine sneered, looking Kira up and down. "Not even rated for full contact." "Don't worry," another one grinned. "I'll go light." The third didn't speak. He just rolled his neck until it cracked. Up in the booth, one of the observing instructors leaned toward another and asked not quietly, "What's her deal? She hasn't moved." "Apparently ex-Army," came the reply, laced with condescension. "Signals intel desk jockey stuff. Not much field rotation. Probably thinks this is about reflexes. The first instructor chuckled. She's not going to fight. In the pit, one of the Marines finally broke formation and advanced a step too far, his boot crunching down in front of hers. Not touching, not quite. Kira didn't flinch. He leaned in close enough that she could smell the tobacco on his breath. Don't worry, sweetheart, he said. I won't tell anyone if you quit before the whistle. Still nothing. No blink, no tension. Only one subtle movement, so minor it went unnoticed by the others. She looked down at his boot, then at the ground between them, and then directly back at his throat. A shift so small it might have seemed like a non-reaction to anyone else. But to the Marine in front of her, it felt like precision, like she just measured him. He took half a step back without realizing. His buddy noticed. Yo, what are you doing? The Marine paused. Nothing. The staff instructor finally raised the whistle to his lips. Kira's team hadn't even geared up, and the murmurs from the booth kept coming. This is going to be quick. I'd almost feel bad. She's not going to fight. The whistle blew. Kira didn't move. The Marines did. All three at once. The first Marine went for the takedown. Low and fast, like he was going for a trophy, not a spar. He aimed to hook Kira's legs and slam her backward onto the rubber matting, probably expecting a yelp or a flail or some panicked defense. He was already grinning when he dropped his center of gravity hands stretched out for a grab. But Kira had already shifted. No one in the booth caught it, not even the instructors. The camera feed wasn't focused on her feet. All they saw was her pivot, her right foot sliding diagonally just enough to slide his momentum off axis, and then she dropped, not away from him, but toward him. She didn't counter the takedown, she redirected it. Her right arm looped under his extended elbow. Not to strike, but to rotate. His own force collapsing his posture. Her left shoulder dropped, weight transferred, and then he was airborne. Not because she threw him, but because she let his own body complete the movement he'd started. His back hit the mat with a muffled grunt that echoed across the arena like a drumbeat. Kira never looked at him, because the second Marine was already swinging. A padded baton whistled past her head, not because she dodged late, but because she'd already stepped inside the arc before it finished. It caught only her hair. Her hands were empty. She hadn't picked up a baton, but now her forearms were locked under his grip, elbows tight to her body like a lever. She didn't need a weapon. She was using his. One twist, shoulders snapping around like a door hinge, and the baton clattered to the ground. He tried to wrench away. She didn't let him. Her knee rose right into his gut. He doubled forward on instinct and then froze. Because she had her elbow positioned under his chin, exactly 2 centimeters beneath the pressure point that would collapse his airway entirely. One slight lift, that's all it would take. But she didn't strike, she released him. Let him drop to one knee, breathing hard, confused like something had short-circuited in his training. Up in the booth, one instructor jolted forward. Wait, what did she just rewind that camera? The third Marine, quiet until now, rushed her from a blindside angle. She wasn't facing him. He came in hard, hoping to grab from behind, arms extended for a rear choke or a pin. But that's when the real silence hit. Because what happened next didn't make sense. Kira didn't turn, didn't pivot, didn't brace. She ducked. And the moment his arm passed over her shoulder, she locked it. Not with a flashy twist, not with brute force, but with the exact angle of control taught in elite restraint programs. The ones never made public, the kind used in detainee extractions and black site handoffs. She moved like someone who had trained to disable, not to win. The Marine's face slammed into the mat so fast his legs flailed after impact. He didn't get back up. The entire room froze. No bell rang, no whistle blew. But the fight was over. Kira stepped back, silent, breathing steady, and walked toward the edge of the pit. She still hadn't picked up a baton, and she still hadn't said a single word. It was supposed to be routine. The drill wasn't even being recorded for official review. But every instructor had a habit, especially when it came to recruits flagged by the brass. Someone always ran a local backup feed, which is why by 17:30 hours that evening, the footage had already circulated to half the base. And by 1800, every instructor in the mess hall was watching it on someone's phone. At first, it didn't even look impressive. Kira wasn't flashy, no knockout punches, no aggressive stares or showboating. Just clean, silent disassembly. But that's what made the silence louder. The instructors reviewed the footage frame by frame. The first Marine's takedown attempt redirected with foreign theater-level precision. The second's baton disarm textbook restraint hold from classified programs. The third's blindside grab locked and neutralized with technique that had no place in a training facility. That's not academy. one muttered, pausing the video. That's black sight. Another leaned closer to the screen. Who the hell taught her that? And then someone caught the final takedown in slow motion. The angle, the control, the professional restraint that spoke of operations no one discussed in public. That's when it shifted from curiosity to fear. Where's she from again? Asked a senior evaluator, frowning. Another pulled up Kira's digital profile on a tablet. The screen glowed pale blue in the dim mess hall light. Contractor, he read aloud. Signals intelligence. Attached to Cross-Branch Joint Task Force. Deployment history. He paused. Classified under OGA parameters. OGA, other government agency. The kind of label that didn't mean civilian support. It meant don't ask. That was when Lieutenant Colonel Sorrell, the officer who had originally signed off on her silent inclusion in the program, got the knock at his door. 2 instructors, 1 training chief, all 3 silent, holding out a tablet. They didn't need to explain. Sorrell watched the footage once, then again, and by the 3rd playback he set the tablet down and looked up. Was this sanctioned? He asked quietly. No, sir. Not on the record. He nodded slowly. Who made the call to put her in that ring? Sergeant Don, sir. Said she wasn't showing enough aggression in drills. Sorrell didn't raise his voice, didn't shout. He just closed the door behind them and said one sentence that would later appear in the disciplinary review. You better hope she doesn't file a report. But Kira didn't. She didn't ask for an apology, didn't escalate the incident. She didn't even respond when asked to debrief it. She went back to her bunk, back to her nightly logs, and stayed silent, which somehow made the entire thing worse, because no one could read her, and no one could tell what she was holding back. The tape was flagged "Do Not Share." But it didn't matter. By the end of the week, it had passed through more phones than any sanctioned training clip in the last decade. It wasn't about the fight. It was about the way she walked away from it, as if it had never happened. The silence didn't calm anything down. If anything, it made people nervous. Kira didn't strut, didn't complain, didn't gloat. She reported to every morning drill like nothing had happened. Didn't correct the rumors, didn't defend herself. She just ran lifted file data when ordered. And when pressed during tactical analysis sessions, she'd offer answers. Brief, clear textbook. No speculation, no embellishment. For a group built around bravado, that kind of silence was worse than arrogance. So they made a decision. If she wasn't going to talk, they'd force her to react. It started with a fake miscommunication. She was marked absent from a scheduled session despite being there on time, public write-up, then a misrouted gear drop, her boots replaced with a half size too small, her pack stuffed with 10 pounds of wet sand. She didn't flinch, didn't even file a correction. So they escalated. Instructors pulled her aside for a mock after-action review, framing her as the weak link in a simulated hostage operation. I just don't get what you're doing here, Brennan, one sergeant said, arms crossed, voice loud enough for others to hear. This isn't signals anymore. This is close quarters, real stakes. She stood at attention, eyes forward. Understood, Sergeant. No, it's not about understanding. It's about belonging. Do you really think you belong here? She didn't answer, which only made it worse. They finally tried to provoke her in front of the group. Day 19, open drill, rain, mud, midday heat hanging thick over the compound like wet wool. They handed her a 30-pound steel sledgehammer and pointed to the tire stack. 300 strikes, barked the instructor. Now! Kira didn't ask why, didn't question the number. She just raised the hammer and started swinging. No gloves, no rest. By strike 80, her palms were red. By 140, they were blistered. By 200, bleeding. Someone radioed in quietly to ask if they should cut the drill short. The lead instructor answered with a shrug. She'll break or she won't. She didn't break. Strike 300 landed just as the sun cut through the storm clouds. Light catching the sweat streaked across her face like war paint. She set the hammer down, walked to the line, and waited. No words, no eye contact, just her posture. That's what did it. Not the feat, not the strength, the fact that she wasn't doing it to prove anything. She was just doing it, which scared the hell out of them. Because if this was her staying quiet, what would happen if she ever decided to speak? The review wasn't scheduled, it wasn't routine, and it definitely wasn't friendly. The man who called it in didn't do so casually. Commander Garrett Thorne, Cross-Branch Tactical Advisor, former SEAL Team 6, now assigned to oversee inter-service cohesion efforts, arrived with zero warning. His helicopter touched down late in the evening. No ceremony, no press, just boots on gravel and eyes scanning the compound like he already knew what he was looking for. Thorne wasn't just another suit. He'd fought in 2 wars, run Black Ops under 4 administrations, and personally written the assessment criteria for this very program. And as he stepped into the debriefing tent, flanked by 2 civilian observers, the tone shifted. Instructors straightened their backs. Students whispered. "Brennan," he said without introduction, eyes locking on Kira. "Step forward." She moved without hesitation. "Posture precise. You're the only non-combat branch applicant here," he said, voice even, but carrying weight. "Everyone else either served in direct action units or trained for it." "Yes, sir." "You know what they say about signals intelligence people trying to go kinetic?" "Yes, sir." "What do they say?" "That we don't understand the terrain, that we analyze from distance, not live it up close." "And are they right?" Kira didn't blink. "No, sir." One of the civilian observers wrote something down. Thorne turned slow and deliberate toward the instructors standing at the back of the tent. "I've reviewed the footage from her sledgehammer drill," he said. "I've reviewed the sabotage on the gear load. I've reviewed the falsified absence report." A sharp inhale from one instructor. Quiet, but too late. "Not only is this a procedural failure," Thorne continued, "it's cowardice. You couldn't break her with fatigue, so you tried to break her with bureaucracy." No one spoke. Kira remained still. Then Thorne did something no one expected. He walked toward her, paused, and held out his hand. She took it. Firm shake. No emotion. "This woman," he said to the room, not looking away from her, "has endured more psychological warfare in 20 days than most of you have in 2 deployments. And she's still standing, still calm, still focused." Silence. "She's not weak, she's mission calibrated, and she's staying." Then almost as an afterthought, he added, "And I suggest every instructor here read her file again, this time with both eyes open." The civilians followed him out. Kira didn't say a word. She just stepped back into formation, but from that moment on, no one looked at her the same. It was supposed to be a corrective group exercise. That's how they justified it. Officially a night operation to test reaction time, small unit cohesion, and close-quarter maneuvering. Unofficially, it was a trap. They waited until the instructors had gone dark, until the officers were in their quarters, until only moonlight and memory kept the training compound alive. 8 of them. Every one of the men who'd mocked her, doubted her, sabotaged her. Led by Corporal Ethan Royce, the same one who'd flung dirt at her boots during the blindfolded drill. They caught her just past the motor pool, alone, silent, heading back from the gear room. No cameras, no instructors, no oversight. Perfect. "Evening analyst," Royce said, stepping into her path. Kira didn't flinch. "You got a lot of people fooled," he said. The others fanned out behind him, surrounding her in a tight semicircle. "But not us." "You know what happens when a single weak link thinks it belongs in the chain," another said. "It breaks under stress." A third stepped closer, cracking his knuckles. "You're not going to file a report, are you? Or run back to your little signal tent?" Kira's face remained unreadable. She didn't retreat, didn't ask for help, didn't even raise her hands. She just breathed, and then she spoke. 2 words, calm, final. "Last chance." Royce blinked. "What?" She didn't repeat herself, just looked at him, at all of them, like she was giving them one final opportunity to make a different choice. One of them laughed, nervous but trying to sound confident. "She thinks she's tough." Another moved, quick, reaching to shove her shoulder and throw her off balance. That was the last mistake, because Kira wasn't trained for brute force. She was trained for precision. Her left foot slid back 6 inches, weight shifting low. Right hand caught the incoming wrist, and without even using her other arm, she leveraged the momentum into a redirect that flung him off balance and slammed his chest into the side of a transport truck. Thud. He didn't get up. Another lunge from behind, but she turned low and pivoted, elbow meeting rib at the perfect angle. Crack. Royce cursed and charged, fist clenched. He never reached her. Kira dropped low, swept his leg, then rose with a palm strike so fast it stunned even the men watching from the perimeter. He staggered. She caught him by the collar and whispered close enough that only he could hear. "You call this stress?" She let him drop. 4 of them stood frozen. 3 others had backed up. Not one dared take another step. No shouting, no taunts. Just Kira standing in the center of their broken circle, not even out of breath. And still she hadn't said a word. Not until she turned her back and walked away. Only then did one of them mutter, voice shaking, "What the hell is she?" Another answered quieter, "I think she's the reason this whole program exists." It was supposed to be a silent after-action review. No confrontation, no investigation. just a name roll and gear check before lights out. But when Lieutenant Dylan Cross entered the debriefing hut that morning, he paused. Because Kira Brennan was already standing at attention center of the room, arms at her side, uniform perfect, and the rest were scattered, bruised, avoiding eye contact. Royce had one arm in a sling and a red welt still darkening beneath his eye. "What happened?" Cross asked, voice quiet. Silence. He turned to Royce. "Well," Royce didn't speak. "Brennan," Cross said, "did something occur last night?" She didn't nod, didn't smile, didn't flinch. She simply said, "Yes, sir." Cross waited. "Would you like to explain?" "No, sir." A beat. "You're not going to report anything." She looked him in the eye. "That won't be necessary." It was right then that the room seemed to exhale, as if the air itself had been waiting to see if justice would be demanded or deferred. But Kira had already chosen. Not revenge, not discipline, just silence. The kind that tells you everything you need to know. Cross stepped forward, looked each of the bruised trainees in the eye one by one, and finally said, "Dismissed, all of you, except Specialist Brennan." They filed out, quiet, careful, slower than usual. When the door closed, Cross sat down. He didn't look at her. Not at first. Then quietly he asked, "Why didn't you want to escalate it?" Kira answered without hesitation. "Because they weren't the threat, sir." He raised an eyebrow. "Then what were they?" "The test," she said. "And I passed." A long pause, then Cross nodded slowly. "Yes, Specialist, you did." He stood up, turned to her fully, then gave a sharp, respectful salute. Not as a superior to a subordinate, but as one soldier to another. She returned it, wordless, calm. And the next morning, without any announcement or ceremony, her name was added to the classified transfer list. Destination unknown, unit redacted. But every person in that room knew the truth. She was leaving, not because she had failed, but because she was already beyond this program. Because whatever came next would need someone even stronger than they knew how to train. The call came 3 days after the motor pool incident. Not through official channels, not through the base communication network, but through a secure line that rang exactly once in Lieutenant Dylan Cross's office at 0430 hours when the desert was still dark and most of the compound was asleep. He answered on the second ring. "Cross," said the voice on the other end, calm, authoritative, familiar. "We need to talk. About Brennan." Cross sat up straighter. "Commander Thorne. My office, 30 minutes. Come alone." The line went dead. Cross dressed in silence, mind racing through the possibilities. Thorne had left the facility 2 days prior or so, everyone thought. His helicopter had lifted off in full view of the compound, but apparently he'd never actually left the area. Which meant whatever this was about, it was important enough to stay hidden. The temporary command office was located in a converted storage building on the far edge of the compound, away from the main training areas. When Cross arrived, the lights were already on. Thorne sat behind a metal desk reading something on a tablet. 2 civilian observers stood near the back wall, the same ones who'd accompanied him during the initial review. "Sit," Thorne said without looking up. Cross sat. Thorne set the tablet down and leaned back. For a long moment, he just studied Cross, measuring him. Then he spoke. "What do you know about Mosul, Lieutenant?" Cross blinked. "Sir, Mosul, Iraq, 2019. Final push against ISIS remnants in the old city. What do you know about it?" "Standard operational history, sir. Coalition forces urban warfare high casualties. Declared liberated, but pockets of resistance remain for months." Thorne nodded slowly. "And do you know what we lost there?" "Personnel, sir. Equipment, infrastructure." "Operators," Thorne corrected. "We lost operators. Good ones. The kind you can't replace." He paused. "We lost a SEAL sniper team. Building collapsed during an HVT extraction. 2 KIA confirmed on site." Cross waited, not understanding where this was going. Thorne tapped the tablet. One of those KIA was Lieutenant Kira Brennan, 27 years old, SEAL qualified, sniper school graduate, 3 combat deployments, Purple Heart, Navy Cross recommended posthumously. The room went very quiet. "Sir," Cross said carefully, "Kira Brennan is in our facility right now." "I know," Thorne said, "because she didn't die in Mosul. She was buried alive for 46 minutes. Dug out by local friendlies. Medevac to a black site medical facility in Baghdad. And while she was unconscious, someone made a decision." He slid the tablet across the desk. Cross looked down at the screen. It showed a classified after-action report, heavily redacted, with a section highlighted in yellow. It read, "Subject declared KEA, extraction to OGA control approved, mission priority override." Cross looked up. "OGA recruited her while she was unconscious." "Not quite," Thorne said. They waited until she woke up. Then they gave her a choice. He stood, walked to the window, looked out at the dark compound. Kira had stumbled onto something in Mosul. Weapons smuggling, coalition contractors selling American ordnance to insurgent cells. She'd been gathering evidence for weeks, building a case. But someone in the command structure found out. The IED, Cross said quietly. The IED, Thorne confirmed. Wasn't bad luck. Wasn't ISIS. It was one of our own. Covered it up as collateral damage from a firefight. Building collapse. 2 SEALs killed, 3 wounded. Clean story, except Kira survived. He turned back to Cross. So the agency made her an offer. Stay dead. Work for them. Expose the corruption from the inside. In exchange, they'd protect her SEAL team from the investigation. Because if she went public, if she pushed the case through official channels, everyone on that team would have been dragged through congressional hearings, media trials, careers destroyed. Cross felt something cold settle in his chest. She traded her life for theirs. She traded her identity, Thorne said. For 3 years, Lieutenant Kira Brennan has been a ghost, running black operations in Syria, Yemen, Libya, no support structure, no team, no one to watch her back except handlers she met once every 6 months in safe houses she couldn't name. She's been alone in the dark for 3 years, Cross, and she did it to protect people who think she's dead. One of the civilian observers stepped forward. Older man, gray hair, quiet voice. Commander Thorne was her spotter. In Mosul. He was on that rooftop when the building came down. Cross looked at Thorne. The commander's face was stone, but something moved behind his eyes. I held her hand, Thorne said quietly, while the medic called time of death. I watched them zip the body bag. I carried her flag at the memorial service. He paused. 6 months later, the agency read me in. Told me she was alive. Asked if I wanted to know where. I said no, because knowing would have made it harder to keep the secret. Then why tell me now? Cross asked. Because she's here, Thorne said, and you need to understand what that means. He walked back to the desk, pulled up another file on the tablet. For 3 years, Kira Brennan operated in conditions that would break most Tier 1 operators. Solo infiltration, deep cover, no backup, no extraction guarantee. She ran 43 operations, led to 62 HVT captures, dismantled 3 smuggling networks, got evidence that put 17 contractors in federal prison. He looked at Cross, and the whole time she was dead. No family contact, no friends, no identity, just mission after mission in the dark. Why come back? Cross asked. Why risk exposure? Thorne was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, because being a ghost was killing her. Not the missions, not the danger, the isolation. She's a SEAL, Cross. We don't operate alone. We're built for teams, brotherhood. And she'd been cut off from all of that for 3 years. So she asked the agency for a favor. Let her test herself. See if she could still function in a military environment. See if she could still be part of something. So this whole thing, Cross said slowly, the facility, the training, the harassment, it wasn't about evaluating her for anything. It was about her evaluating herself. Correct, Thorne said. The agency didn't send her here to prove anything. They sent her here to see if she wanted to come back. If she could handle being around people again, being part of a structure. He leaned forward. And your instructors, your trainees, everyone who's been testing her, pushing her, trying to break her, they have no idea they're not the examiners. They're the exam. Cross sat back, processing. The motor pool incident. I watched the footage, Thorne said, from the admin building. I had eyes on the whole thing. He paused. She gave them a warning. Last chance. That's not bravado, Lieutenant. That's protocol. She's been operating under rules of engagement for 3 years where you give 1 warning before you engage. 1 chance to de-escalate. She did everything by the book, and when they didn't take it, she responded with exactly enough force to neutralize the threat. No excess, no revenge. Professional. She could have killed them, Cross said. She could have killed them all, Thorne agreed, in about 15 seconds. But she didn't, because she's not trying to prove she's dangerous. She's trying to prove she's still disciplined, still in control, still capable of operating with restraint under pressure. He looked Cross in the eye. That's what 3 years in the dark does, Lieutenant. It doesn't make you violent. It makes you question if you're still human. Cross was quiet for a moment. Then he asked the question that had been building. What happens now? Thorne glanced at the civilians, then back to Cross. Now we wait, because her past just caught up to her. Cross frowned. What do you mean? The contractors she helped put away, Thorne said. They've been in federal prison for 18 months, and 3 days ago, one of them made bail. Russian national named Alexei Volkov, former Spetsnaz turned private military contractor turned arms dealer. Kira's intelligence led to the raid that took down his entire operation. Cost him everything. And now he's out, Cross said. Now he's out, Thorne confirmed. And according to intercepts from NSA, he knows she's alive, knows she's here, and he's coming. Cross felt his pulse quicken. How did he find out? One of the civilians spoke up. Someone leaked her location, someone inside the chain. We're still tracking the source. But the leak happened 48 hours ago, which means Volkov's had time to plan recruit and move assets into position. Assets, Cross repeated. How many? We're estimating 12 to 15, the civilian said. Former contractors, mercenaries, true believers from his old network. All experienced, all motivated, and all very angry at the woman who destroyed their livelihood, Thorne stood. This facility is about to become a target lieutenant, and Kira Brennan is about to face a threat that has nothing to do with training exercises or psychological tests. This is real, and when it comes, she's going to have to make a choice. What choice? Cross asked. Whether to stay a ghost, Thorne said, or come back to the world. Because if she defends this facility, if she shows what she really is, there's no going back to black operations. Her cover is blown. Her identity is public. She'll never be able to disappear again. Cross looked at the commander. You think she'll run? Thorne smiled, but there was no humor in it. I know she won't, because I trained her. And the one thing I know about Kira Brennan is that she doesn't leave people behind, even people who've spent 3 weeks trying to break her. He walked to the door, paused. Get some rest, Lieutenant. You're going to need it, because when this starts, I need you to trust her. Even when it doesn't make sense, even when it looks like she's making the wrong call, trust her. Why me? Cross asked. Thorne looked back. Because you're the only one who tried to stop it. The hazing, the sabotage. I've been watching you too, Cross, and when this goes down, she's going to need someone who already sees her as a soldier, not a threat. That's you. He left. The civilians followed. Cross sat alone in the office, staring at the tablet at the classified files at the photo of a young woman in a SEAL dress uniform with a face that looked so much harder now. And he thought about the way she'd walked away from the motor pool. Silent, calm, like she'd done it 1,000 times before. Because she had. The next 48 hours passed like waiting for a storm. Everyone could feel it. The instructors were tense, snapping at minor infractions. The trainees moved through drills with an edge of nervous energy. Even the civilian staff seemed quieter than usual. But Kira, she didn't change at all. She ran the morning PT course at the same pace, attended the same briefings, sat in the same corner of the mess hall, eating alone, saying nothing. The only difference was that now, when people looked at her, they looked away faster. On the second day during a tactical briefing, one of the trainees asked the question everyone was thinking. Why is she really here? The instructor, a senior NCO named Kowalski, looked up from his notes. Who? Brennan, the trainee said. I mean, no disrespect, but she's not exactly going through the program like the rest of us. She doesn't participate in half the exercises. She sits out most of the team drills. What's the point? Kowalski set down his notes. The point, he said carefully, is that some people are here to learn, and some people are here to remind us what the standard is. He looked around the room. Brennan's been through more in the last 3 weeks than most of you will go through in your entire careers. And she's still here, still showing up, still meeting every requirement without complaint. If you can't see the point in that, then you're not paying attention. The trainee shut up, but the question lingered. Cross watched Kira during the briefing. She sat in the back row, as always, arms crossed, eyes forward. Didn't react to the question. Didn't react to Kowalski's answer. Just sat there absorbing information, processing, filing it away. But when the briefing ended and everyone filed out, she stayed behind. Waited until the room was empty, except for Cross. Then she spoke. They're coming, aren't they? Cross looked at her. What makes you say that? Thorne's still here, she said. I saw his vehicle behind the admin building this morning. Covered, but not well enough. And there are 2 civilian surveillance specialists running perimeter checks every 4 hours. That's not standard. She tilted her head slightly. Plus, you've been watching me like you're waiting for something to happen. So either I'm about to be arrested or someone's about to attack this facility. And since I haven't done anything arrest-worthy, I'm guessing it's the latter. Cross almost smiled. Almost. You always this observant? 3 years of solo ops, she said. You learn to notice things. or you die. He nodded slowly. Thorne briefed me about Mosul, about the agency, about everything. Kira didn't react, just waited. And yeah, Cross continued, they're coming. Alexei Volkov, the contractor whose network you helped dismantle, he made bail 3 days ago. NSA intercepts say he's got your location. He's bringing a team. How many? 12 to 15. All experienced. Kira was quiet for a moment. Then she said, they'll hit at night, multiple breach points. Probably try to take out communications first, then isolate and eliminate. Standard contractor playbook. She looked at Cross. What's the facility's defensive posture? Minimal, Cross admitted. We're a training facility, not a combat outpost. We've got a handful of armed instructors, some perimeter sensors, and a fence that wouldn't stop a determined teenager. So we're soft, Kira said. Very, she nodded. Then we need to harden up. Fast. Cross hesitated. Thorne said this is your call. Whether you want to stay and fight or disappear before they get here. If you leave now, we can extract you. Put you somewhere safe. Let federal law enforcement handle Volkov. Kira looked at him like he just suggested she sprout wings and fly. How many people are on this facility right now? 43, including civilians. And how many of them know how to handle a coordinated assault by professional killers? Cross didn't answer. That's what I thought, Kira said. She stood up. I'm not leaving, but I need to talk to Thorne, and I need you to gather every instructor who's qualified for combat operations. Weapons, tactics, experience. I don't care what branch they came from. If they can fight, I need them. You're taking command, Cross asked. I'm offering tactical coordination, Kira corrected. Thorne's still senior, but he's been behind a desk for 2 years. I've been in the field for 3. I know how Volkov thinks. I know his patterns. And I know how to stop him. She headed for the door, then paused. One more thing. Yeah. Royce and his crew, the ones from the motor pool. I want them in the defensive plan. Cross frowned. You sure about that? They're trained, Kira said. And they're motivated. They might have been idiots, but they're not cowards. When bullets start flying, they'll fight. I can use that. She left before Cross could respond. The planning session happened in Thorne's temporary office at 2100 hours. 10 people crammed into a space meant for 4. Kira stood at the front next to a hand-drawn map of the facility taped to the wall. Thorne sat off to the side, watching. Cross stood near the door. The rest were instructors. Kowalski, senior NCO, former Army Ranger. Martinez, combat engineer, Marine Corps. 2 others whose names Cross didn't catch, but whose bearings screamed special operations. Kira didn't waste time with introductions. She just started talking. Volkov's team will approach from the east, she said, pointing to the map. There's a dirt access road 3 clicks out that's not monitored. They'll stage there, move in on foot to avoid sensors, breach the perimeter fence at 3 points. She marked them with a pen. North, east, and south. West side backs up to restricted military range so they won't risk it. How do you know? Martinez asked. Because that's how I'd do it, Kira said. And I trained with some of the same people Volkov did. Spetsnaz doctrine, multi-axis assault, overwhelming force. Fast in, fast out. What's the objective? Kowalski asked. Me, Kira said flatly. They want me dead. Everything else is secondary. So we use that. Make me the bait. Set up a kill zone. Force them to come to us on our terms. Thorne spoke up. You're talking about using yourself as a lure. I'm talking about controlling the battlefield, Kira corrected. Right now they have the initiative. They pick when, they pick how. But if we give them a target, they can't resist. We take that initiative back. And if they don't take the bait, one of the other instructors asked, then we have a perimeter defense that's better than what we have now, Kira said. Either way, we win. But I think they'll take it. Volkov's not subtle. He's angry. Angry people make mistakes. Thorne stood up, walked to the map. Walk me through it, Kira nodded. We positioned most of our defensive personnel in the admin building. Elevated firing positions, clear sight lines to all 3 breach points. We set up a false perimeter with motion sensors and lights make it look like that's our main defense. But the real defense is here. She pointed to the motor pool. We put a small team in the motor pool, me, Cross, and 2 others. When Volkov's team breaches and moves toward the admin building, the motor pool team flanks them from behind. Crossfire. They're caught in the middle. Martinez leaned forward. That's putting 4 people in the most exposed position. That's putting 4 people exactly where they need to be, Kira said. I know Volkov. He'll send his best operators to clear the motor pool before advancing. And when they get there, they'll find me. That's the bait. And if they overwhelm you? Kowalski asked. Kira looked at him. Didn't blink. They won't. The room was quiet. Thorne studied the map. Weapons? We have a small armory, Cross said. Rifles, sidearms, ammunition. Enough for everyone. Body armor. Limited. Maybe 10 vests. The 4 in the motor pool get them, Kira said. Everyone else focuses on cover and concealment. Don't get hit in the first place. What about civilians? Martinez asked. Bunker them in the mess hall, Kira said. Interior room, no windows, reinforced walls. 2 armed guards on the door. If anyone gets that far, we've already lost. Thorne nodded slowly. Comms, short-range radios, Cross said. We've got enough for everyone. Good, Kira said. Coordinate all movement through me. No one fires unless I give the signal. No one moves unless I clear it. This only works if we're disciplined. You're asking a lot of trust, Kowalski said, not unkindly. I know, Kira said, but I've run operations like this before, and everyone in this room is still breathing because someone somewhere made the same ask of them. Trust the person who's been there. Trust the plan. Trust the training. She looked around the room. I won't lie to you. Some of us might get hurt. This isn't a drill. These are professionals coming to kill. But if we do this right, if we stay calm and execute, we can stop them. All of them. And everyone on this facility goes home. One by one, they nodded. Thorne stood. All right, we've got maybe 24 hours before they hit. Let's get to work. The meeting broke up. People filed out, already talking tactics and assignments. Cross started to follow, but Kira caught his arm. Lieutenant, he turned. In the motor pool, she said quietly, when it starts, I need you to trust me. Even if it looks like I'm making the wrong call. Even if it looks like we're losing. Trust me. Why tell me this? Cross asked. Because you're the one Thorne said I could count on, Kira said. And because when Volkov shows up, it's not going to be clean. It's not going to be easy. And there's going to be a moment where you think we should retreat, call for backup, wait for reinforcements. She paused. We won't have time for any of that. So I need to know now. Can you trust me? Cross looked at her. This woman who'd been dead for 3 years, who'd survived alone in the dark, who'd endured everything this facility had thrown at her without breaking. Yeah, he said. I can trust you. She nodded. Good, because Volkov's not the only ghost coming back from the dead. And when he sees me, he's going to realize he made a mistake. What mistake? Kira's face was stone, thinking I was someone he could kill twice. The attack came at 0247 hours on a moonless night when the desert was black as ink and silent as a grave. Kira was already awake. She'd been awake for 3 hours, sitting in the motor pool maintenance bay, with her back against a concrete pillar rifle across her lap, listening to the darkness. Cross sat 20 feet away, positioned near the north entrance. 2 other instructors, Kowalski and a former Marine named Stevens, held positions at the east and west corners. The facility's perimeter sensors had been deliberately miscalibrated. Not enough to be obvious, but enough to create gaps, holes in the coverage that would look like maintenance errors to anyone studying the security patterns. Invitations disguised as incompetence. Volkov's team would see those gaps, and they'd use them. Kira's radio crackled softly, Thorne's voice barely a whisper. Viper Command, motion detected Sector 3, multiple contacts. Viper, the call sign she'd used in Mosul, in Syria, in a dozen operations across 3 years. Thorne was using it now deliberately, reminding her who she was, what she was. Copy Command, Kira replied, her voice calm. Professional. All stations weapons hold. Wait for my signal. Across the compound in the admin building, 8 instructors and armed personnel waited in darkness. In the mess hall, 37 civilians sheltered behind reinforced doors with 2 guards outside. Everyone was in position. Everyone was ready. But Kira knew readiness and reality were different things. Most of these people had never been in a real firefight, never had someone trying to kill them with professional precision. Training prepared you for the mechanics, but it didn't prepare you for the moment when you realized the person shooting at you wanted you dead and had the skills to make it happen. She checked her rifle one more time. M4 carbine, fully loaded, optics zeroed at 50 meters. Sidearm on her hip. 2 spare magazines. Not much, but enough. She'd worked with less. The radio crackled again. Martinez positioned on the admin building roof with night vision. Command, I've got eyes on 12 contacts moving in from the east access road. Staggered column, tactical spacing. They're professionals. Copy, Thorne replied. All stations confirm ready status. One by one, the call signs checked in. Everyone was set. Kira watched the motor pool entrance, waiting, breathing, letting her heart rate settle into the rhythm she'd learned in 100 missions. Slow, steady, present. This was the part she'd almost forgotten. Not the fear. You never forgot the fear. But the clarity that came with it. The way everything sharpened when the stakes became real. She'd been living in simulation mode for 3 weeks. Drills, tests, games. This wasn't a game. The first explosion came at 0251 hours. Not large, but loud enough to wake anyone who'd been sleeping. The north fence line exactly where Kira had predicted. Breaching charge, probably C4, blowing a hole big enough for 3 men to move through simultaneously. 2 seconds later, the east fence went, then the south, 3-axis assault. Just like she'd said. "Contact all sectors," Martinez called over the radio. "They're coming in fast." Kira keyed her radio. "All stations hold fire. Let them advance. Wait for the crossfire." She could hear the uncertainty in the silence that followed. Every instinct in those defenders was screaming to engage, to shoot, to do something. But she needed Volkov's team deeper. Needed them committed. Needed them in the kill zone. Through the motor pool's open bay door, she saw movement. 4 figures, low and fast moving, with tactical precision. They bypassed the admin building exactly as predicted, heading straight for the motor pool. Clearing the flanks before advancing on the main target. Smart, professional. Volkov had sent his best. The lead figure raised a hand. The team stopped, stacked up outside the entrance. Kira could see them clearly now in the ambient light. Night vision goggles, suppressed weapons, body armor. They looked like wraiths. She let them get into position. Let them think they had the advantage. Then she spoke loud enough to carry across the motor pool. "Last chance." The 4 figures froze. "I know you can hear me," Kira continued. "You've got about 3 seconds to decide if you want to walk away from this or get carried away from this. Choose carefully." For a moment, nothing. Then one of them laughed. Low, rough, accented. "Russian." "Viper," the voice said. "Volkov said you might still have a sense of humor. Even after 3 years playing dead." "Not playing," Kira replied. "I was dead. You should have left it that way." "Perhaps," the voice said. "But ghosts don't put people in prison. You cost us everything. Now we return the favor." "Last chance is over then," Kira said. "Yes," the voice agreed. "It is." They came through the door fast, exactly as she knew they would. Professional assault, high-low coverage, overlapping fields of fire. If she'd been where they expected, standing in the center of the bay, she'd have been dead in 2 seconds. But she wasn't standing. She was prone behind a concrete pillar with a sight line to the entrance that gave her first shot advantage. She took it. The first round caught the lead operator in the gap between his helmet and body armor. Throat shot. He went down hard, weapon clattering. The others scattered, diving for cover, returning fire toward where the muzzle flash had been. But Kira had already moved. Rolling left, coming up behind a steel workbench, firing twice more. One round sparked off body armor. The other found soft tissue. Another operator down. Cross opened up from his position, 3-round bursts, controlled and precise. Kowalski and Stevens joined in. The motor pool became a storm of noise and violence. But Volkov's team didn't break, they adapted. Returned fire with disciplined precision, suppressed Kira's position with concentrated bursts while 2 of them maneuvered for flanking angles. Kira saw the maneuver developing, recognized the tactic. Spetsnaz assault doctrine exactly as she'd trained against. She keyed her radio while changing magazines. "Command motor pool is engaged. 4 hostiles, 2 down, 2 maneuvering. Execute secondary positions now." "Copy," Thorne replied. In the admin building, the defensive line shifted. Martinez and 3 others moved to new firing positions, creating overlapping fields of fire that covered the motor pool's approaches. Anyone trying to reinforce Volkov's assault team would have to cross open ground under direct observation. The trap was set. One of the remaining operators made his move. Fast break from cover, trying to close distance on Kira's position. He was good, trained, experienced. Not good enough. Kira didn't shoot him. She let Cross take the shot. Let him prove he could do this. The rifle cracked once. The operator stumbled, went down. The last one saw how it was going. Saw 3 of his team dead or dying. Saw the crossfire developing. Made the smart choice. Withdrawing, he called out. Not to Kira, to someone else on his radio. His team leader. Probably Volkov himself. He threw a smoke grenade and retreated under cover. Kira let him go. She didn't need to kill everyone. She needed Volkov to know his assault had failed. Needed him angry. Needed him to make the mistake she was counting on. The motor pool fell quiet except for the ringing in their ears and the harsh breathing of people who just survived their first real firefight. Motor pool secure, Kira reported. 3 enemy KIA-1 withdrawn. Friendly casualties none. Status on other sectors, Martinez came back. Admin building, no contact yet. They're probing the perimeter, but holding back. They're reassessing, Kira said. They know we're not soft. They're going to regroup and try something else. Thorne's voice cut in. Viper Command, good work. Hold position and wait for their next move. Negative, Kira said. We don't wait, we press. Explain. Volkov just lost 3 operators in under 60 seconds, Kira said. He's angry, confused, wondering how a training facility had that kind of defensive response. Right now, he's most dangerous, but he's also most vulnerable. He'll make a mistake if we push him. What are you proposing? Kira looked at Cross, at Kowalski, at Stevens. They were scared but holding. Good enough. I'm going out there, she said, drawing him into the open. Once he sees me, once he knows I'm here, he won't be able to resist. He'll come for me himself. And when he does, we end this. The radio was silent for 3 seconds. Then Thorne said, Viper, that's suicide. No, sir, Kira replied. That's tactics. Volkov wants me dead more than he wants anything else. More than survival. More than escape. That's his weakness. I'm using it. Absolutely not, Thorne said. We hold position, wait for federal backup. They're 20 minutes out. 20 minutes is enough time for Volkov to realize he's outmatched and withdraw, Kira said. He disappears back into the contractor network, regroups, tries again in 6 months somewhere else. Or we finish it now. Clean. Final. Cross spoke up. Commander, she's right. If we let him run, this doesn't end. Thorne didn't respond immediately. Kira could imagine him in the admin building, weighing options, calculating risks. Finally, he said, if you do this, you don't go alone. Cross goes with you. Sir, I work better solo. I know, Thorne said, but you're not solo anymore. You're part of a team. Act like it. Kira felt something shift in her chest. Small, unexpected. She looked at Cross. He nodded. Copy command, she said. Cross and I are moving to engage. Everyone else holds defensive positions. If this goes wrong, you lock down and wait for federal. It won't go wrong, Cross said quietly. Kira almost smiled. Let's hope you're right. They moved out of the motor pool 3 minutes later, using the smoke from the grenade as concealment. Kira led Cross, followed, both moving with the kind of tactical discipline that came from training and experience. They crossed open ground in bounds, covering each other, using every piece of terrain. The facility was quiet now. Too quiet. Volkov's remaining operators had pulled back, consolidating somewhere in the darkness. Kira could feel them out there, watching, waiting. Professional soldiers didn't panic. They adapted. She keyed her radio, speaking softly. Command Viper, I need you to do something for me. Go ahead. Turn on all the exterior lights in 30 seconds. Every floodlight, every fixture. I want this place lit up like daytime. That'll expose our positions. That's the point, Kira said. Volkov thinks he has the advantage in darkness. We take that away, force him into the light he has to react instead of plan. A pause, then 30 seconds. Mark. Kira and Cross reached the cover of a transport vehicle parked near the center of the compound. She checked her watch. 20 seconds. 15. Cross leaned close. What happens when the lights come on? We find out if Volkov wants revenge more than he wants to live, Kira said. 10 seconds. And if he does, then this gets interesting, Kira replied. 5 seconds. She raised her rifle, sighted on the eastern perimeter, where she knew Volkov's team had to be staging. Cross did the same, covering the opposite direction. 3, 2, 1. The lights slammed on. Every floodlight, every building exterior, every pathway fixture. The compound went from pitch darkness to harsh white illumination in an instant. It was blinding, disorienting, exactly what Kira wanted. And they're caught in the open near the eastern fence were 8 figures. Volkov's remaining team exposed and vulnerable. For a split second, nobody moved. Then training took over. Volkov's team scattered, diving for cover. Return fire sparked from 3 positions. Rounds snapped past Kira's head, punching into the transport vehicle behind her. She dropped roll, came up firing. Not wild, not panicked. Controlled bursts, picking targets, making every round count. Cross engaged from her left, covering her movement. In the admin building, Martinez and the others opened up, creating the crossfire they'd planned. It was chaos. Professional, disciplined chaos, but chaos nonetheless. Kira moved through it like she was reading a script, because she'd been here before. Different country, different enemy, same fundamentals. Suppress, maneuver, eliminate. She'd run this drill 100 times across 3 years of solo operations. Except now she wasn't solo. Cross moving right, she called. Covering, he replied. laying down suppressive fire. She broke cover, sprinted 10 meters, slid behind a concrete barrier, reloaded, sighted, fired. One of Volkov's operators went down. 7 left. "Command northeast corner," Martinez called over the radio. "3 hostiles taking cover behind the generator building." "Copy," Kira replied. "Admin shift fire to suppress. Cross and I are flanking." "Negative," Thorne cut in. "Too exposed." "We don't have a choice," Kira said. "They're pinned down now, but if we give them time to reorganize, they'll break contact and withdraw. We end this now, or we don't end it at all." Silence, then execute. "But if it goes bad, you pull back immediately." "Understood." Kira looked at Cross. He was breathing hard but steady. "Good enough." "With me," she said. They moved. It should have been suicide. 2 people crossing open ground advancing on 7 entrenched hostiles. Every tactical manual said, "Don't do it." Every training scenario said it was a mistake. But Kira had learned something in 3 years of ghost operations. Sometimes the thing that looked like suicide was the thing the enemy never expected. And when they didn't expect it, they hesitated. And in combat, hesitation killed. Volkov's team saw them coming, shifted fire. Rounds tore up the ground at their feet, sparked off metal, whined through the air. Kira didn't slow down. She kept moving, kept firing using every technique she'd learned. Suppression, maneuvering, cover. Cross stayed with her, matching her pace, covering angles she couldn't. They reached the generator building in 20 seconds that felt like 20 years. 3 hostiles, exactly where Martinez had said. Pinned by fire from the admin building, but still dangerous. Still armed, still committed. Kira didn't give them time to react. She came around the corner, already firing point-blank range, no time for precision. Just aggression. Violence of action. The thing that separated survivors from casualties. 2 went down immediately. The third turned, tried to bring his weapon up. Cross shot him. 3 down, 4 left. "Generator building secure," Kira reported, breathing hard now, adrenaline singing in her veins. "Status? 4 hostiles, withdrawn to the motor pool," Martinez called. "They're trying to flank our position." The motor pool, where they'd started. Where Volkov had lost 3 operators already. He was sending his remaining team back there, trying to use the terrain to break the crossfire. "Command permission to pursue," Kira said. "Granted," Thorne replied. "But Viper, be advised. One of those 4 is Volkov himself. Intercepted comms confirm it. He's in the fight." Kira felt something cold settle in her stomach. Not fear, recognition. "Copy. Cross and I are moving." They covered the distance in bounds, fast but careful. The motor pool loomed ahead, dark shapes against harsh light. No movement visible, but Kira knew they were there, could feel them. She stopped at the entrance, the same entrance Volkov's first team had used. Cross stacked up behind her. "He's in there," Kira said quietly. "You sure?" "I know him. He won't send his men to die while he hides. He's in there waiting, probably hoping I'll come." "So we're walking into a trap." "Yeah," Kira said, "but it's a trap we know about. That makes it our trap." Cross was quiet for a moment. Then, "What do you need me to do?" "Cover the exits. Anyone tries to leave, you stop them. But don't come in after me. This is between me and Volkov." "Kira," Cross said, using her name for the first time, "you don't have to do this alone anymore." She looked at him, saw the concern, the sincerity. Something in her chest tightened. "I know," she said, "but some things you have to finish yourself. This is one of them." Before he could argue, she moved. The motor pool was dark inside the floodlights, creating harsh shadows. Kira moved through them like a ghost rifle, up senses screaming. Every instinct honed over 3 years of survival told her where to look, where to move, where danger waited. She found the first hostile behind a stack of tires. Saw him before he saw her. Put 2 rounds center mass. He dropped without a sound. 3 left. Movement to her right. She spun, fired, missed. Return fire forced her into cover. She rolled, came up, engaged again. The muzzle flashes lit up the bay like lightning. Another hostile down, 2 left. And then from the darkness, a voice. Accented, rough, familiar. "Viper." She froze. Not from fear, from memory. She'd heard that voice before. In intercepted communications. In after-action briefings. In the recordings they'd played during her OGA debriefing. Alexei Volkov. "I'm here," she called back. 3 years I looked for you," Volkov said. 3 years I believed you were dead. And then I learned the truth. You were alive, working, destroying everything I built." "You built it on blood," Kira replied. "American blood. You armed terrorists who killed our soldiers. You don't get to play victim." "I was a businessman," Volkov said. "War is business. You know this. You are soldier. You understand." I understand you tried to kill me, Kira said. Mosul, that IED wasn't ISIS. It was you. You found out I was investigating and you tried to bury the evidence by burying me. Silence, then yes, and I failed. My mistake. Your last mistake, Kira said. She heard him move. Saw the shadow shift. He was circling, trying to flank. But so was she. 3 years of solo ops had taught her to think like the enemy, to anticipate, to stay one step ahead. They moved through the darkness like dancers, professional, patient, waiting for the opening. You cost me everything, Volkov said. My company, my reputation, my freedom. 18 months in American prison because of you. And you killed 2 of my brothers? Kira replied. SEALs who trusted me, who I couldn't protect because I was buried under a building you brought down on us. You don't get to talk about costs. Then we both have debts to settle. Yeah, Kira said. We do. She saw him then, just for a moment. Silhouette against the light from outside. Big, armored, armed, but mortal. He fired first. 3 rounds suppressed, professional. They sparked off metal where she'd been a second before. She returned fire. 5 rounds controlled bursts, walking them across his cover position. He moved. She moved. They circled each other, neither willing to commit fully, both looking for the advantage. You were good, Volkov said. In Syria, Yemen. I heard stories. Ghost operator. No backup, no support. Just mission after mission alone. I almost admired you. Save it, Kira said. I didn't do it for admiration. Why then? Why trade your life, your identity, everything just to put people like me in prison? Kira was quiet for a moment. Then she said, because that's what SEALs do. We protect people, even when it costs us everything. Noble, Volkov said. Stupid, but noble. Last chance, Alexei, Kira said. Drop your weapon. Surrender. Federal agents are 3 minutes out. You can survive this if you choose to. He laughed, low, bitter. Survive to spend rest of life in prison? I think not. I think we finish this. You and me, the ghost and the man who made her. Your call, Kira said. He came out of cover fast. Professional assault, exactly as she knew he would. Firing, moving, trying to close distance for a kill shot. But Kira had been waiting for it, anticipated it, prepared for it. She didn't retreat. She moved toward him, into the attack, the thing he wouldn't expect. Their weapons fired simultaneously. His rounds passed over her shoulder. Hers didn't miss. Center mass, twice, then once more as he fell. Volkov hit the ground hard. His weapon clattered away. He tried to reach for it, couldn't. Looked up at Kira standing over him. You were right, Kira said quietly. We both had debts. Now they're settled. Volkov coughed, blood on his lips. The ghost wins. No, Kira said. The SEAL wins. There's a difference. His eyes closed. He stopped breathing. Kira stood there for a moment, rifle still raised, making sure. Then she keyed her radio. Command Viper, motor pool secure. Volkov is down. Last hostile is... Movement behind her. She spun. The final operator stood 10 feet away. Young, scared, weapon raised but shaking. Don't, Kira said. He fired. Wild panicked. The round went wide. Kira didn't. One shot. He dropped. Motor pool secure, she repeated into the radio. All hostiles neutralized. I'm coming out. She walked out of the motor pool to find Cross waiting, rifle up, covering. When he saw her, he lowered it. You good? He asked. Yeah, Kira said. I'm good. Behind her, the motor pool was silent. Ahead, the compound was already coming back to life. Lights on, people moving, the crisis passing. But Kira stood there for a moment, just breathing. Not the tactical breathing from training. Just breathing. In, out, alive. She'd been a ghost for 3 years. Dead to the world. Dead to her team. Dead to herself. Not anymore. Federal agents arrived 17 minutes later. 3 black SUVs, a dozen agents, all business. They secured the scene, documented casualties, took statements. Kira gave hers in 10 sentences. Precise, professional, no embellishment. The lead agent, a woman named Richardson, looked at her with something between respect and suspicion. Lieutenant Brennan, she said, we've been looking for you. I've been here the whole time, Kira replied. That's not what I mean. Your OGA handler wants to debrief you, says your cover's compromised. You need to be extracted. Kira looked around the compound, at the instructors cleaning up, at the trainees helping to secure the perimeter, at Cross standing nearby watching. Tell my handler I'll debrief when I'm ready, Kira said. Right now I have people to check on. Richardson raised an eyebrow. You're refusing extraction? I'm delaying it, Kira corrected. There's a difference. She walked away before the agent could respond, headed toward the admin building where Thorne was coordinating with Facility Command. People moved aside as she passed. Some nodded, some saluted, some just stared. She found Thorne on the second floor looking out over the compound. He turned when she entered. Viper, he said. Commander. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Thorne said, hell of a thing you did out there. Just finishing what I started, Kira replied. No, Thorne said. You started something 3 years ago in Mosul. Tonight you finished it. There's a difference. Kira was quiet. OG is going to want you back, Thorne continued. New identity, new operations, more time in the dark. I know. Is that what you want? Kira looked out the window, at the compound, at the people, at Cross still standing where she left him. 3 years ago, I made a choice, she said, traded my life to protect my team, and I'd make that choice again. But tonight I had a team again. For the first time in 3 years, I wasn't alone, and I remembered what that felt like. So what are you going to do? Kira turned to face him. I'm going to tell OG a thank you, but no. I'm done being a ghost. I'm coming home, and if they don't like it, they can court-martial me. Thorne smiled, small, proud. They won't, because what you did tonight defending this facility, saving these people, that's going to get you a medal. Probably more than one, and it's going to make it very hard for them to send you back into the shadows. Politics, Kira said. Strategy, Thorne corrected. You earned your way back, Viper. You proved you can still operate with a team, still trust, still lead. That's what tonight was about. Not Volkov, not the attack, but you figuring out if you could still be a SEAL instead of a ghost. Kira felt something release in her chest, something that had been clenched tight for 3 years. And, she asked, and you can, Thorne said. Welcome home, Lieutenant Commander. Kira blinked. Commander, promotion's retroactive, Thorne said. You've been operating at that level for 3 years. Navy's just making it official, along with your reinstatement to active duty. Effective immediately. He pulled a folder from his desk, handed it to her. She opened it. Transfer orders. Training Division West Coast. Command position. You're putting me in charge of training? Kira asked. I'm putting you in charge of building something new, Thorne said. Integrated Special Operations Training Program. Taking lessons learned from operators like you and teaching the next generation what it really takes. Legacy SEALs mentoring new candidates. Breaking down the old barriers. Showing them what's possible. Kira looked at the orders, at her name, her rank, her future. There's one condition, Thorne said. What's that? You get to pick your staff, instructors you trust, people you want to work with, build your own team. Kira thought about it for maybe 3 seconds. Then she said, I want Cross, and I want Royce. Thorne raised an eyebrow. Royce, the one who jumped you in the motor pool. The one who fought beside me tonight, Kira corrected. He made a mistake, learned from it, and when it mattered, he stood his ground. That's someone I can work with. Thorne nodded slowly. Your call. Anyone else? Give me a week, Kira said. I'll have a full roster. You've got it. They shook hands. Thorne's grip was firm, respectful. One more thing, he said. Your team, the SEALs from Mosul, they're going to want to know you're alive. Kira's throat tightened. Yeah, I know. Miller asks about you every week, has for 3 years, wants to know if we ever recovered your body, if there's anything left to bury. Tell him, Kira said quietly. Tell him Viper says hi. Tell him I'm coming home. Thorne smiled. I will. He's going to lose his mind. She left the office and walked back downstairs. The compound was quieter now, the chaos settling into exhausted relief. She found Cross by the motor pool helping to clear debris. Lieutenant, he said when she approached. Dylan, she replied. He looked surprised she used his first name. Yeah. How would you feel about a transfer training division? West Coast, teaching the next generation how to not get killed. Cross blinked. You serious? Dead serious. I'm building a team. Need good instructors. You proved yourself tonight. You trusted me when it didn't make sense. Followed orders under fire. That's the kind of person I need. Cross paused. Yeah, I'm in. Good, Kira said. Report in 2 weeks. We've got a lot of work to do. She started to walk away, then stopped, turned back. Dylan, yeah, thank you for having my back tonight, for trusting me, for reminding me what it feels like to have a team. Cross nodded. Anytime, Commander. She walked across the compound one more time, taking it in, the place that had tested her, broken her, and ultimately brought her back to life. She found a quiet corner near the perimeter fence and pulled out her phone, stared at it for a long moment. Then she opened a new message and started typing. Mom, it's me. I know you think I'm dead, and for 3 years I was. But someone just reminded me that the strongest operators aren't the ones who survive alone. They're the ones who bring everyone home. I'm coming back, not as the daughter who died, but as the soldier she became. I'm done being a ghost. Love, Kira. She hit send before she could change her mind. The response came 30 seconds later. Just one word, when Kira smiled. First real smile in 3 years. She typed soon. I have some things to finish first, but soon, I promise. Behind her, she heard footsteps. Turned to find Ethan Royce standing there, arm out of the sling, now looking uncertain. Ma'am, he said, I wanted to apologize for what happened, what I did. There's no excuse. Kira looked at him, this man who tested her, attacked her, and then fought beside her when it mattered. You're right, she said. There's no excuse. But there is a path forward. Ma'am, I'm building a training program. Need instructors who understand what real leadership looks like. Not the kind that comes from rank or authority, but the kind that comes from proving yourself under fire. You did that tonight. Held your position, followed orders. Didn't break. Royce's eyes widened. You're offering me a position. I'm offering you a chance, Kira corrected, to be better than you were, to teach others what you learned the hard way, to earn back the respect you lost. Interested? Royce stood straighter. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Good. Report with Cross in 2 weeks. And Royce, ma'am, we clear on one thing. In my program, we don't test people by breaking them. We build them up. We show them what they're capable of. We make them stronger, not through pain or humiliation, but through discipline and trust. You understand? Yes, ma'am, I understand. Then we're good. Dismissed. Royce saluted, sharp, respectful, and walked away with something in his bearing that hadn't been there before. Purpose. 2 days later, Kira stood outside a modest house in Virginia Beach. The kind of neighborhood where SEALs lived when they weren't deployed. Manicured lawns, American flags, kids' bikes in driveways. She'd driven 12 hours straight from California. Hadn't called ahead. Didn't know what she'd say. The door opened before she could knock. Jason Miller stood there. Older, grayer, but still the same staff sergeant who'd covered her exits in Fallujah, who'd taught her to calculate windage without a spotter scope, who'd been the first to teach her the SEAL creed. He stared at her, face blank, processing. Then his voice barely a whisper. Viper. Hey, Miller. His eyes welled up. They said you were dead. I carried your fucking flag. I spoke at your memorial. She stepped forward, pulled him into a hug, the first time she'd embraced anyone in 3 years. I know, she said quietly. I'm sorry. I couldn't tell you. Had to stay dead to finish the mission. He pulled back hands on her shoulders, looking at her like she was a ghost, which she supposed she had been. Thorne told me yesterday you were alive, Miller said. I didn't believe him, thought it was some kind of cruel joke. It's real, Kira said. I'm real, and I'm coming home. Miller's jaw tightened. 3 years. You were alone for 3 years. Had to be. To protect the team. To protect you. He shook his head, tears running down his face now. We would have had your back, whatever it was. We would have. I know, Kira said. But this way, you all got to keep your careers, your lives, your families. That's what mattered. Miller pulled her inside. His wife appeared from the kitchen, froze when she saw Kira. Their 2 kids, teenagers now, not the babies Kira remembered, stared from the living room. Kids, Miller said, voice thick. This is Lieutenant Commander Kira Brennan, the SEAL I told you about, the one who saved my life in Ramadi. Mosul, Kira corrected quietly. Both, Miller said. Every day I got to come home to my family, that was you. Every birthday with my kids, that was you. You died so we could live. I didn't die, Kira said. I just went away for a while. But I'm back now. Miller's wife stepped forward, tears in her eyes. Thank you for whatever you did, for bringing him home, for giving us this life. Kira stayed for dinner. Awkward at first, then easier. Miller's kids asked questions about being a SEAL. His wife showed Kira photos from 3 years of birthdays, holidays, moments Kira had missed. When she left, Miller walked her to her truck. What now? He asked. Building a training program, Kira said. Teaching the next generation, making sure they're ready for what's out there. Miller nodded slowly. Need an instructor. I've got 2 years left before retirement. Could use a change of pace. Kira looked at him, her first teammate, the man who taught her what it meant to be a SEAL. Yeah, she said. Yeah, I do. Report in 3 weeks. West Coast Training Facility. I'll be there. They shook hands. Then Miller pulled her into another hug. Welcome home, Viper, he whispered. Good to be home, Kira replied. That night from a motel room in Maryland, Kira made the hardest call. She stared at her phone for 20 minutes before dialing. The number she'd memorized but never called for 3 years. Her parents' landline. Her mother answered on the first ring, like she'd been waiting. Kira, just her name, but everything in it. Hi, Mom, silence, then your father's here. He wants… Hold on. Shuffling. A man's voice. Deep, controlled, retired Marine Colonel voice. Kira. Hi, Dad. Her father didn't speak for a long moment. Then, they told us you were dead. Military funeral, flag, 21 gun salute. Your mother hasn't been the same since. I know. I'm sorry. Sorry? His voice hardened. You let us bury an empty casket. Let us grieve for 3 years. I had to, Kira said. The mission required. Don't. Sharp, commanding. Don't give me mission talk. I've run missions. I know what they cost. But you don't let your parents think they've lost their daughter for 3 goddamn years. Kira felt her throat tighten. You're right. You could have sent a signal, a word, anything, through back channels. Thorne could have… No, Kira said. Anyone who knew was a liability. To the mission. To the people I was protecting. To you. So you protected us by destroying us? The words hit like rounds. Because they were true. Dad, You're just like me, her father said quieter now. Put the mission first. Always. Even when it costs everything. A long pause. I did the same thing. Missed your childhood. Missed birthdays. Missed everything. All for the Corps. For the mission. You taught me duty, Kira said. Taught me sacrifice. I taught you wrong, he replied. Duty matters, but family matters more. And I didn't learn that until it was too late. Until I'd lost years I can't get back. Don't make my mistake, Kira. She heard her mother's voice in the background. Muffled words, her father's response. Then he spoke again. Your mother wants to see you. We both do. Can you come home? I can, Kira said. In 2 weeks, after I finish processing out of the agency. After I get my orders finalized. 2 weeks, her father repeated. Then we'll talk. Really talk. About everything. Okay. Kira. Yeah, Dad. I'm glad you're alive. Even if I'm angry. Even if this is hard. I'm glad my daughter is still breathing. Kira felt tears on her face. First time she'd cried in 3 years. I'm glad too, Dad. She hung up. Sat in the dark motel room. Let herself feel it. The weight of what she'd done. The cost of staying dead. The price of coming back. But also the hope that maybe in time the wounds would heal. That maybe her family could be whole again. 2 weeks, then she'd go home. Face the people she'd hurt to protect and start rebuilding what she'd broken. 3 weeks later, Kira stood in front of 24 recruits at the West Coast SEAL training facility. Some male, some female, all young, all hungry, all thinking they knew what it took. They didn't, but they would. Dylan Cross stood to her right, Ethan Royce to her left, Jason Miller at the back, arms crossed, watching, Garrett Thorne observing from the viewing deck, her team, her instructors, her brothers. Kira looked at the recruits, saw herself at 22, cocky, untested, thinking physical strength and mental toughness were enough. She knew better now. My name is Lieutenant Commander Kira Brennan, she said. And before we begin, I'm going to tell you something every instructor in this program believes you're going to fail. The recruits shifted, uncomfortable. Not might fail, will fail, because that's what this program is designed to do. Break you down, find your limits, push you past what you think is possible. She walked down the line, making eye contact, measuring. Some of you will quit, she continued. Some of you will get injured. Some of you will realize this isn't what you want. And that's okay, because the SEALs don't need people who can survive training. We need people who can survive 3 years alone in the dark and still remember why they fight. One recruit raised a hand. Young woman, maybe 23. Ma'am, how do we know if we have what it takes? Kira stopped in front of her. You don't, not yet, but I'm going to teach you, all of you, what it really means to be a SEAL. Not the physical part, you'll get that, but the part they don't teach in BUIT. The part about trusting people with your life, about making choices that cost you everything, about coming back from the dead because people are counting on you. She stepped back, addressed them all. In this program, we don't test you by breaking you. We build you up. We show you what you're capable of. We make you stronger through discipline, through trust, through proving that you deserve to stand beside the operators who came before you. Cross stepped forward. And if you make it through this program, you won't just be qualified. You'll be ready for anything, Royce added. We've all been where you are. We've all failed. We've all had to prove ourselves. Some of us had to prove ourselves more than once. Miller's voice from the back. And some of us had to learn the hard way that the mission isn't about being the toughest. It's about being the smartest, the most disciplined, the one who brings everyone home, Kira nodded. So here's what's going to happen. For the next 6 months, you're going to train harder than you've ever trained. You're going to learn things you didn't know existed. You're going to be tested in ways you can't imagine. And at the end, if you make it, you'll be SEALs. Not because you survived, but because you became something more than what you were. She paused. Let it sink in. But before we start, I'm going to give you the same opportunity I give every recruit. Last chance. If you want to walk away, do it now. No judgment, no shame. Just an honest assessment that this isn't for you. 24 recruits stood silent. Not one moved. Kira smiled. Small, proud. Good, then let's begin. As the recruits filed out to the training yard, Thorne descended from the viewing deck. Well, Kira asked. You're a natural, he said. They believe you. More importantly, they believe in themselves because of you. That's the point, Kira said. I spent 3 years alone. I don't want anyone else to ever feel that way. This program is about making sure they don't, making sure they have a team, making sure they are never ghosts. Thorne nodded. You did it, Viper. You came back. Not just from being dead, but from being alone. You're home. Kira looked out at the recruits running their first drill, cross-calling cadence, Royce demonstrating form, Miller watching with the eye of someone who'd done this 10,000 times. Yeah, she said quietly, I am. That night alone in her quarters, Kira looked at the 3 items on her desk. Her SEAL trident finally returned from the memorial display. The photo from Mosul, her team smiling alive together. And the transfer orders with her name, her rank, her future. Lieutenant Commander Kira Brennan, Training Division, active duty. Not a ghost, not dead, not pretending. Home. She picked up the photo, ran her finger over the faces. Miller. The others. The family she'd protected by disappearing. Then she set it down and looked at the trident. The symbol of everything she'd been, everything she'd lost, everything she'd earned back. She pinned it to her uniform, felt the weight of it, the meaning. Tomorrow she'd teach 24 recruits what it meant to wear this, what it cost, what it was worth. But tonight she'd just sit here, in the quiet, in the light, in the life she'd died for and fought to reclaim. And for the first time in 3 years, Kira Brennan slept without fear, without loneliness, without the crushing weight of being a ghost. Because ghosts didn't build the future, but SEALs did, and Last Chance was over. Now the real work began.